Welcome to Her Desired Haven podcast, a place where we come together to discuss all things Jesus, family, lifestyle, and faith. I am your host, LaShaundra, and thank you so much for joining me today. So in today's episode, I want to talk about breaking free from the poverty and scarcity mindset. The definition of poverty is the state of one who lacks a usual or socially acceptable amount of money or material possessions. The state of one who lacks. The definition of scarcity or scarce is to be deficient in quantity or number compared with the demand, not plentiful or abundant. So what is a poverty and scarcity mindset? Having the mentality that you don't have enough, you'll never have enough, that you're broke, that you're poor, that you can't afford this, you can't afford that you have to hold on and hoard money because you think that you won't get any more. You have this, I'm struggling, I'm broke, I'm poor mindset. And that goes against the kingdom mindset. The word says that the thief does not come except to steal and to kill and to destroy. I have come that they may have life and that they may have it more abundantly. So how can we do this? How can we break free from the poverty mindset? And why is every system structured to set us up for failure, it seems? It's so heartbreaking to see that the very governmental systems that were set up has been keeping so many people in this cycle of poverty. Not only that, so many mentalities and mindsets that have been passed down through the many generations. This has caused people to live in this cycle as well because it's being passed down from generation to generation to generation. We have to come out of the world systems because they are not allowing us to live that lifestyle of abundance that God has for us. Yes, we can be believers and have money too. In fact, if you are living for God, I don't believe He calls us to be poor, broke, and struggling and completely reliant and dependent on governmental programs and systems. Although I do appreciate these programs, and me personally, I have benefited from almost every government program, food stamps, all that imaginable. So it's helped me personally. So I'm not against it. I just think having that mentality of this is not forever, it's temporary. What's my exit strategy and how can I move on from this is so important that we not stay in that place. We really have to make a choice. We can stay stuck there or we can choose to graduate from that and move on. We should not get complacent and start doing everything humanly possible to not make too much money so that we don't get kicked off the program and they don't decrease our, benefits and things like that. That's when it gets ridiculous. And it's like, we are literally shaping our lives around these programs and conforming to be able to qualify for it. And that's not okay either. We've all been there. I think this is literally like a trap. And it's like that never ending cycle that has to be broken. I remember I wanted to go back to school. Now, I was in a program where they allowed you to get your associate degree as you were still working towards your bachelor degree. So I ended up leaving school before I could finish for lack of finances and the tuition just being way too expensive. So I was able to get my associate degree. I really wanted to return to school and get my bachelor degree. But I was also at the time receiving benefits, government assistance, cash assistance. It's a program where if you're going to school, you can still receive those benefits. I remember asking the caseworker if I could return to school, and they literally told me that I could not go back and still get the benefits that I needed. For me and my family, I'm a single mother with 3 kids. I needed the help, obviously, and even working was hard and wouldn't have been enough. I needed that extra assistance. They told me that I had to work with what I had, which was my associate degree, in order to continue to receive the benefits that I was getting. This made me very frustrated. And I just felt like if they were truly desiring to help people, they would want me to get a higher level of education and eventually get off of these benefits. But when I was told that I couldn't go back to school, I had to work with what I had, It just made no sense to me. And it was this interaction amongst many others that really showed me that they didn't really care and they aren't really trying to help people become better and move to the next level of their lives and get off of this program. If we're not careful and don't pay attention, we can get into these systems and into these cycles. This can cause us to stay in poverty and with that mentality. And just because they expect the bare minimum of us doesn't mean that that's how we should live, and we should come in agreement with them, because these caseworkers and stuff like that, like a lot of them, they're just doing their job. They really don't care. We have to pay attention, and we have to choose to live differently. We may not always realize how much we have really embraced the poverty and scarcity mindset. We may be reluctant to spend money, or we might hoard it, because we feel like we never have enough, or, we won't have more anytime soon. So we're like trying to hold on to every penny. You don't give as often as you need to. You're not giving, whether it's to charity or to others, your tithe and offering. We make excuses like, I don't have it, or I'm broke, or I have to pay this bill or that bill. And it's the same excuse week after week, month after month, year after year. And trust me, I've been there. I would be the one, and I would feel bad, but be the one like dodging the people outside, like grocery stores, asking for money or donations. I really didn't want to give to them, because just thinking about everything that I had going on, everything that I had to do, I was struggling. I was behind on my rent and bills and stuff like that. It's like, it was not even a thought. It's like, nope, I can't help. So let me dodge, because I don't even want to, interact with you at this point. Because I just knew, like, I had that mentality of, I don't have it. I never felt like I was in the position to be able to help anyone until something changed in me. God literally had to strip me of everything that I had. I even left my job that I had. I left my job. And if you go look back at my testimony, I think it's episode 3, I share that I was in an abusive relationship at one point in my life. And after leaving that relationship, I left with my 3 kids and pretty much like nothing. I broke my lease. I didn't have a car anymore. God literally stripped me of everything that I had, and I had become so reliant upon. I had to completely start over and become completely reliant and dependent upon God. So at the time I was receiving, I applied for government assistance, food stamps, cash assistance, things like that. I was getting that each month, but something shifted in me where I was like, okay, like I had been praying for my finances, for financial literacy, financial wisdom, and things like that. I began to become more wise with my money, because we're a family of 4 and I had my kids and I had to be careful with how I was spending and stuff like that. I really didn't like the feeling of being in constant poverty and struggling and never being able to help myself or anyone else. This was not normal to me, and I just knew that it wasn't right. I had to allow God to reveal these things to me and to really change my heart and mind concerning money, and to show me how I could live life differently. Because He had not, and I know this, like God has not called us to be poor and to be struggling, but to have and to leave behind wealth and legacy for many generations to come, and to have an abundance. So I had to make a choice, and I chose to do things differently. With consistency and discipline, it was possible. My mind, my life, and my finances were completely transformed. And I wasn't at one point giving like tithe and offering and things like that, but I began to give tithe and offering consistently. Boy, did I see a huge difference and such a shift in my finances once I began to do that. I began to prioritize and pay off debts left and right. I was no longer maxing out my credit cards. And I didn't have a bunch of credit cards. I only had 2. Like the most credit cards I ever had at once was 2 cards. I got to the point where, okay, I was more disciplined about that. I no longer, was even really using and maxing out my cards and struggling to pay the minimum balance. And definitely no more like payday loans. Like that was the biggest trap and mistake like I could have ever made, taking out these payday loans. Like seriously, please don't. Just don't. Trust me, like don't do it. I began to give more. I began to tithe, trusting God with my money. And it really made a huge difference in my family's life. And I know that God has called not just me, but all of us to not live a life of struggle, but of abundance and of peace and of joy, to trust and follow Him and allow God to give us divine strategy and financial wisdom that we need to navigate this world. So how can we do this? How can we leave behind the poverty and scarcity mindset for good, and confidently step into the abundance that God has promised us? I think it's so important for us to give. Give so that you can receive. The Bible says that give and it will be given to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over will be poured into your lap. For with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. And that is Luke chapter 6, verse 38. Also, I think it's important to pray and ask God for help and divine strategy for managing and budgeting our finances, no matter how big or small. Because the Bible says whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. And whoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with much. So if you have not been trustworthy in handling worldly wealth, who will trust you with true riches? And if you have not been trustworthy with someone else's property, who will give you property of your own? And that is Luke chapter 16, verse 10 through 12. Also, I think it's important for us to educate ourselves. There are so many mentors and financial experts that offer courses and master classes and that have written books and articles and different things like that, or creating videos on YouTube and blogs and things that we can really take the time to invest in ourselves and educate ourselves on how we can better understand money and how it works and how to apply the knowledge that we've learned to our own personal situations. We should also write down our financial goals and plans, whether it be to pay off a certain amount of debt or to save a certain amount, to get a promotion at your job, or to start an investment account. The Bible says to write the vision and make it plain. So I think it's definitely important to keep journals or a notebook and just write down your plans. Write down your goals, and don't just write them down, but, come back to them and evaluate your progression and how are you executing the things that you wrote down. So write the vision and make it plain. That's Habakkuk 2:2. Next, get to work. This is probably one of the most important parts, because faith without works is dead. You can pray all you want to, but if you're not willing to put in the work, you're going to get nowhere. So get to work. It is a process and a journey, and it's going to take time. To be patient and be consistent and put in the work necessary if you really desire to see and experience change in your finances and in your relationship with money. And last, don't forget God. I think this is so important as well. When you reach your goals, be blessed to be a blessing. When you get to a better space and have paid off all your debts and, you've done all these amazing things, reach back and teach and help someone else. Give out of your abundance and show others how they can break the cycle of poverty and be free from the scarcity mindset too. Thank you so much for listening. Please subscribe. We are on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. Please share if you feel led to. Thank you so much for tuning in. I will talk to you next time.